a very fine cutting horseman by the name of Buster Welch who was explaining to a fellow by the name of Lyman Tenney, who was an old cowboy, how to cut in arena cutting horse competition. He was translating, he was trying to place Lyman in an environment that Lyman could understand when he was actually in front of a grandstand in a competition situation. This is called Just Another Clearing Arena Cutting Horse Competition. All the people worried, all the people watching you, and that fake cowboy set up there, don't worry about it, old Buster Welch says. Just pretend you're horseback in a little clearing, way off in a blue mountain range. There are rocks and oak brush on the edge of that clear place. There's an open 12-foot gate in the middle. It's the only clearing in all those blue mountains. That's how come they put the gate there. You've been hazing along a wild, gallivanting hideout cow. Till now, there's just she and you alone in front of that gate. And it seems like it's taken you a lifetime to find her. You sure don't want to let her get away, 'cause daylight's fading, and you've used up all the tricks you know. And if she gets away this time, she'll be gone forever. So sit up straight in your saddle, hold those split reins light, follow that wildness dancing in her eyes, a leg each side of your horse's back, a mind in the middle. Be invisible, be not there. Now, drive her through that opening 12-foot gate. Everywhere you go, riding alone into one of these new arenas. Remember, it's always just another clearing, way off in a blue mountain range. This is called a covered set for a lion. That means that's distinguished from like a blind set for a lion, which would be a trapped set in a place where there was no bait, where someone had observed that a lion was passing through the country and they simply set a trap there, like in a place where a lion would jump down over a waterfall and he'd tend to hit in the same place. So if you set a trap in a place like that, there would be some chance of catching the lion. A covered set is a set in which, in this case, it was by a calf that the lion had killed. The traps were hidden, and they were around a bait. Huckleberry Colt waits tied to a mesquite, shakes himself, and the trapper's shovel tied to the saddle clanks, and the clanking dies away. Old big-pawed lion, you killed 7 calves this spring, and up by Cloverdale Peaks, 3 more missing. This lion's like an old loafer wolf, says Walter. He don't come back or cover his kills. A lion, he'll eat the heart and the liver first. A bobcat, he'll eat the ears and the brisket. That's on a calf or a deer he might have killed himself. A wolf, he'll work on the quarters. Walter scoops out a place in the dirt and sand in a hollow between 3 cedar trees. So, green flies buzz and whisper away through pale caves in the dead calf's stomach. He pulls open the stiff jaws of a number 4.5 steel trap, his feet rocking on the springs. He sets the trigger thumb back, fingers underneath the trip, So if the jaws spring, his fingers have a chance to get away. In winter up in the blue country, a trapper made a bear set, says Walter, got both hands caught in the jaws. They found him in the springtime, chained to a pine tree. A cloud mist comes off the mountain, drops lightly around them. Walter ties a link of the chain of one steel trap with a strand of baling wire to a link of another, packs the dirt firm near the hidden jaws so the earth won't show the waiting trap too soon. Pieces of burlap sack over the open jaws of 3 traps to keep pebbles from jamming the springs. Old cedar needles rolled in Walter's hands, drop from his hands, roll on the burlap. Tiny pebbles flipped off with a light cedar twig, ping in the rocks, ricochet through the leaves. A hollow place between 3 cedar trees. Huckleberry Cole thinks it's getting pretty late to do any more work. He stretches out and pees. They wait to keep the buzzards off the dead calf bait till the sunlight's gone away. They're sent from a shower while they made the cupboard set. Will stay unless it rains again. The mother cow bawls low in her throat for her calf who won't get up again. The green flies are stuffed and buzz and whisper away in the pale caves in the dead calf's stomach. A seashell sound, a fly in the whirls of your ear. Yes, there's nothing more to do, old Walter says, but brush out our tracks and back out of here and go. Waiting for the rain. Windmill wells and water holes going dry. Sure don't look too good for these cows, old Walter says. Makes a man think the rain's never going to come. Nothing but empty blue sky. The night's so hot and short the cowboy can't hardly sleep. Way before daylight he'll saddle his stoutest horse to ride a prowling to bring his cattle through one more drouthy day. The black gnats swarming, gnawing on eyes and ears, dust devils whirling. He'll toss his loop over a bog cow's head and dally his rope round the saddle horn. He'll drag her away from the cracked edges of the dried up water hole, sucking sounds of her legs pulling from that black mud, her horns on the prod hooking at his horse's flanks. The dry sands of blowing. Then one day a new wind will come along over the mountain ridge line, carrying the smell of the first raindrops. Dry times are always that away. When a man thinks what he's waited for never will come. That's what it takes to bring him the rain. On the way, 3 wetbacks came to the ranch to ask for work. The work was to string a drift fence across a saddle way off in the mountains. They took the gentle mule Mike and packed him with all of their gear and food enough for a week. They left for that saddle high up in the mountains. They tied the mule to an oak limb near a small hole in the old bark where the honeybee's wings were passing through the sunlight, in and out to the hole in the tree. He stamped the ground and kicked. They heard him in the night. But that is what a mule does, they said. He stamps the ground and kicks. At morning, standing, still tied to the oak limb, he had been stung to death. The honeybee's wings were still passing through the sunlight, in and out of the hole in the oak. But that is what a mule does, they said. Now he has gotten away from us again. Already he is looking back over his left shoulder. His hooves are clattering on the canyon rocks toward home. The borderline. Monroe sits on Blue Horse after climbing a ridge by the borderline. Blue Horse perks his ears at the sound of an engine and looks south into Mexico. He and Monroe watch two bobtailed trucks. Red ants in the distance crawl toward them along a new road where the old trail used to come to the Puerto Colorado. Bulldozed white rock slides spilling down the green mountain sides across soft grasses after the summer rains. In the pit of his stomach, Monroe feels a hollow ache coming from some place he doesn't know, like when a woman a man has loved has left him and gone. Gray pavement through old mountain canyons and passes, road cuts where there were only trails and grama grasses, and vaqueros whistling, riding past the soft adobe lamp-lit houses. Blue Horse and Monroe circle back toward home along the Tank Creek draw, picking their way across the rocks and sands, white willow buds on the long shoots, wasps swarming from the flowers, wings brushing against Monroe's hands. Wait a little, Blue Horse, Monroe says. Quit tugging on the bit. Give me time to listen here. Bees humming, mosquitoes humming, buds and white flowers, wings whirling in the twilight, fall leaves in the air. Monroe steps down from the saddle to sit on a rock. Down the draw trail there are clouds in the dusk light throwing shadows to the east. In the stillness an owl drops from the high cliff, dives past, talons out, the wings hit the brush, whack by the wing bones. Down the grassy oak slope a rabbit runs away. Maybe too much daylight still in the evening for those night eyes to see, the aim to go true. Blue Horse touches Monroe's arm with his nose. The moonlight is playing on the long willow leaves. The cradles of the mountain ranges are all there is to see. Let's go, Blue says. Okay, Monroe tells him. He steps onto the stirrup, swings into the saddle. Let's take the creek trail through those tall willow shoots. Brush a new way through the moonlight. Our work's done. We're heading home. Vaqueros, gentling colts. In un rodeo, in a roundup, says Roberto, when cows are being sorted and separated, it's not the vaqueros who are guarding the cattle, it's the horses. Each horse is watching and learning to cut cattle, not just the one the vaquero thinks he's gentling. Mira, I'll tell you why the RO's company didn't have any good cutting horses. The RO's was a big ranch. It was broken into divisions. El South, San Pedro, Los Nogales, Quito Acá, y El Papalote. Each division had its foreman. Y cada jodido tenía su modo de trabajar. And each one of those bastards had his own style of working cattle and horses. And each told his vaqueros how to ride a colt. Because of that, no good cutting horses were made. In Los Ranchitos Chicos, on the little ranches, there were better horses, because the cowboy was left alone. He gentled the horse he rode, y nadie le dijo nada. No one told him anything. That is the only way to gentle a horse. Only the one who is gentling the colt knows what. Un hombre y una mujer, a man and a woman. Only the lover and the loved one know. Staking horses. Santa Fe had taken the Mexican ranch hands to Agua Prieta. Vente, come on, we'll buy you a beer, they say. They had been building a retaque corral near Bunk Robinson Spring, a 2-hour ride from the ranch headquarters. They packed their camp and drugged the heavy corral posts with their saddle horses. There was no horse trap at the camp, so Roberto hobbled the horses to keep them from straying. But every night, they would try to go back to their home range. Some mornings they were 5 miles away when Ruben, Roberto's son, would go to wrangle them at dawn. Santa Fe did not know why Roberto didn't stake them. He did not ask. When they were drinking in the cantina in Agua Prieta, Roberto told him, Cuando los federales me agarraron, when the federales caught me, Roberto began, they hobbled my hands together and tied me to a tree. They left me all night, and the next day and night. Me dieron toques. They gave me shocks with a cattle prod. I didn't tell them anything, but I don't want to tie a horse to a stake at night. Huellas. Huellas means tracks. Roberto and Santa Fe had been cleaning a 20-foot pipe in a dam. They welded a drill onto the end of another smaller pipe and rammed it up the main pipe. They turned it with a ratchet, but couldn't break loose whatever held the water back. So they shot their 6 guns up the pipe. Finally the water broke loose, but the shots broke loose Santa Fe's young mare. She took off galloping down the rough canyon, dragging a part of the tree. It took Roberto and Santa Fe the rest of the day to trail her through the mountains. She was traveling through a rocky country, and Roberto was finding tracks where a man wouldn't believe a horse could go. They got back to the ranch about dusk and were drinking tequila. Santa Fe asked Roberto about tracking. Tú siempre quieres ver toda la huella. You always want to see the whole track, Roberto said. Look where the leaves of grass have only bent a little to one side, or a pebble's rolled, or a kicked twig has scratched across the sand. The mare's way where it crossed through the grasses was easy to follow, because her weight broke the grass stems. A lion's paw only bends the stems, and the grasses spring up again. Ha de ser la pata del león. Be the lion's paw, pressing the leaves of grass onto the earth. Then the track is clear. Fruit pickers, migrant labor. Once Roberto said, a woman told me her story. Fuimos al pueblo, she began. We went to town, and my husband became drunk. I got a ride back to the orchard with a friend. When I came close to our camp, I heard a rustling in the brush. It was 2 of the fruit pickers who had come to rape me. I had seen them partly naked by a rock pool when they were bathing. One of them, Lupe, was a Yaqui Indian. He started raping me, and at first it was a little bad. But I told him he could do what he wanted. He left the orchard the next day. But when I went back to the pool by the creek, I found where he had left me a little piece of candy. Well, she said, I hope it was for me. The moon in the water. Juan and Santa Fe were prowling along the irrigated field, killdeer flying into the dusk light. They were looking for tracks. 3 chickens had been robbed from the Ocotillo Rig chicken coop. Ahí están, there, Juan said. A coon's handprint in the mud, tracks leading toward the Ocotillo Rig coop. The prints disappeared into the pale reflection of the moon in a puddle of water. Ya yo sé lo que voy a hacer, Juan says to Santa Fe. Now I know what I'll do. I'll set a trap for the coon. I'll hide it under the reflection of the moon in this puddle of water. Cuando viene el guatepe, and when the coon comes, he will not see the jaws of the steel trap that wait for him. Va ver no más la luna en el agua. He'll see no more than the moon in the water. I might as well, this is one about my old friend Porfirio. A lot of those fellas have never seen such a thing as a watering hose before or a lawnmower. They've been pure cowboys all of their lives. Porfirio was just that, but he's getting very old, and so I thought that I could maybe he didn't like to ride and he didn't want to move a hard bull or anything like that, so I thought I could maybe let him take care of the yard, which was a great mistake. At first we had a little lawnmower that you would push like this, and he would push it very, very slowly, and of course the blades wouldn't turn around. So I took the mower and I pushed it faster, and I said, "Hay que hacerlo, recio, like that. You've got to push it harder and faster." He still couldn't do it. In any case, I came back about a half hour later and pushed the mower some more and cut quite a bit of the grass, and then I came back again and he had a hoe and he was just chopping these huge holes in the yard. So I thought I'm going to make one more try because I can really use him for, yard work, but I can't use him for anything else. So I said, "Look, Porfirio, you just have to push this machine fast. It just won't cut otherwise." And he said, "Mira, Drum, te voy a decir una cosa. Look, Drum, I'm going to tell you something. Uno viene aquí para trabajar." No, how's that? Yeah, para trabajar, no para batallar. One comes here to work, not to struggle. Better that you give me my pay now and I will go home. So, of course, I said, "Okay, I'll cut the grass and you rake." In any case, he says these immortal sort of things. I call this regionalism. Dame un traguito, mi corazón me lo pide. Give me a little drink. My heart tells me to ask you for it. Corazón aquí viene, heart, here it comes. Juan and his friend Porfirio had come to Agua Prieta from the San Bernardino Valley in Sonora, where Porfirio had spent all of his life. They were drinking tequila in a cantina and were sitting next to some viejas, some girls, one with a big stomach. Juan asked her what had happened to her stomach. "Un cabrón en Chihuahua me agarró y me culió." "One of those bastards in Chihuahua got a hold of me and screwed me," she said. "Fíjate, imagine that," Porfirio said. "They do it over there in Chihuahua, too." I, 'cause, 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 ' This is called Juan's Last Trail. There's old Juan walking along the ridgeline from Mexico Route 2 through the border fence, then down the rough side of the canyon to the Escondida camp, where he hoped his friend Walterio Ramsey would be waiting. Tortillas in a sack, a half-filled bottle of tequila, old heart walking, centuries singing, dry times, the rangelands and wetback trails, his own people, Sonora, Mexico. Where are you headed, Juan? Where there's work to do, he'd say. Old vaquero following traces of cattle trails, drifting through the blue Peloncillo mountain range to find work in America. Humming of flies along that winding path, trembling side-oat seeds. Ves, mira, there, Roberto says to Santa Fe. Look past those mesquite leaves. Faded Levi's, tan shirt, sombrero by the cliff rock, where the trail climbs the ridge line. Do you see him? A hawk goes gliding low over one's bones. Sunlight and the rain, summertime, the worms, odor like a cow dead about 4 weeks, grease from his body turning the side oats, grasses brown, grease, coyotes, lightning, who knows? Early fall clouds rolling over the ridge line, bodies, clouds, dry falling seeds. Pretty quick a man disappears in the winds and the creeks and the mountain sand. Old dust in the wind drifting on the Guadalupe Canyon Trail. Where are you headed, Juan? Siempre tengo mi camino en la punta de los pies. Always my way is before me, he said. Only the tips of my feet know where I will go. Read you one more. Hasta mañana. Roberto and Santa Fe had gathered the remnant for another fall roundup together. They were riding past a split oak on the canyon side. Cuando viene un viento fuerte, when a strong wind comes, that oak will fall, said Santa Fe. Chingado, damn, said Roberto. Some days we don't even need the wind. They were compañeros. Springtime and fall, each had come from prowling alone, tending cows along the borderline, to gather the cattle of the canyons and arroyos till roundup time was done. Now the last remnant had been gathered, yearlings shipped, bred cows driven to their winter pasture. Again it was time for Roberto to go. Together before dawn light they saddled up. Roberto swung his leg over the mochilita, the roll of his belongings tied behind the saddle cantle. A handshake. Hasta mañana, he waved, and followed the trail away into Mexico, across the water and wind drifts of arroyo sand. On the rim of the Sierra Madre of a shale cliff, the horse fell from the cliff edge and rolled onto him, and the saddle horn se enterró, buried itself in the pit of his stomach. In the light and darkness crossing the still canyon rim, the ringing of his spur rowels echoes from the mountain rocks. The lost sound of his horse's hooves passes across the arroyo sand. One cold hand falling from the long split reins. Que te vaya bien, that you go well. Santa Fe calls across the dust and wind drifts of arroyo sand. Hasta mañana, hombre. Until tomorrow, man.